Hey everyone, my name is Seth. You're watching Reon Tech TV, and today in this session, we will be continuing on the last grid that we have implemented yesterday. Yesterday, we have seen how the Appian recipe was working with respect to indexing the grid row layout. Today, we will use the actual data coming from record type. So, I have just created a rule which is fetching the VOF customers. As you can see, it is just querying the VOF customer. This will be available in your community account as well. As you can see, we can test the rule. We are having somewhat around 24 items in this record query. So we will be having a list of VOF customers inside this local variable where we will be calling it. So right now we are having static data. So today we will be discussing how to display data coming from a database backed by query record. So we will be using local bank customer data, and we will be using rule bank up underscore fetch grid data. So using this simple expression rule, we will be getting out all the 24 customer data type VUF customer records. So as you can see, we are having it now. Now we have to remove the unnecessary code that is available in the recipe that we have implemented last time. So as you can see that we are having VOF customer. So VOF customer is having different type of fields. So the field that we need to populate is we can populate a name, tier, and phone. We can ignore the rest of the columns. So as you can see in the current grid implementation, we are having four columns and we are populating only three. So now we need to remove the fourth column, which is already there in the code. So let us remove the unnecessary grid row layout. Let me remove the grid. Right now we are facing any this kind of error because we are having the fourth value as a text field. So let me remove this one also. Now we are having three columns and three values inside the grid row layout. Now, what was the values in the headers? Name, tier, and phone, right? So let me put name as a heading here, name, and then we are having tier, and then we are having phone. Now, as you can see, all the values in the headings are replaced as per my code. Yesterday, we have seen that the number of times you repeat the grid row layout is directly proportional to the number of rows that you will see in the grid. So the grid row layout is just like a wrapper layout. It is just like a polybag, which is consisting of different type of individual fields pertaining to the column that we are trying to populate in the grid. So as you can see, right now it is only a single grid row layout because we are having single row. But in my list, I don't want to iterate it in a fixed time. I want to iterate it as much as data I'm having in my local variable. So right now there are 24 items. There might be a list with more than 24 or less than 24 dynamically, right? So instead of putting it as a static fixed value, I will be using dynamic value using a bank for each loop. So let me keep the first row as there just to understand how the code works, and let me use a bank for each below it. So you understand that what's the difference between dynamic iteration based upon a local variable and a static iteration coming from a static code. So local bank customer data and expression will be the actual grid row layout code. Now as you can see, there are in text field, integer field, and floating point field. So let me remove the other two and let me copy this with two more times. Now we are having text field. As you can see, it is referring to local bank items. Now what is local bank items? Local bank items, it is just like a normal dictionary variable which is pointing to three values as keys. But in our case, now we have to implement the customer data, local bank customer data, which is bringing data from VOF customers. So what I will be using here in the text field, the populating value should be coming from this loop item. So it will be FV bank item, and it will be record type bank VOF customer. We have to point to the type of record type because it is a record type local variable, record type based local variable. We have to point to name, right? So we have to point to the name. Even if you don't put save into, then also it will work. So let me remove the save into just to show you. Then also it's working, right? Similarly, we have to do the same thing in other text fields. Instead of name, we are having tier field now. And the third column, as you can see, right now it is having the default values. So here it will be phone. The third field will be phone. So as you can see, they all are editable. I can edit and interact with the field, although the value which I will be changing will not be saved because there is no save into property. But still, it is beneficial that we can use read only as true for this example to make it sensible. The moment I made my row values as read only true, so you can see that the first grid row layout which is coming from this code is having editable fields and it is indexing the previous local variable, that is local bank items. Whereas my for each loop is iterating local bank customer data no matter how many values this expression rule is populating. Today it is 24, maybe this might be more than this or less than this. As much as data that of type view record type is there in this expression rule, it is just pushing this into the container called local variable, local variable called view customer, sorry, local bank customer data. Right now, because it is of type view customer, so we are just pointing to the right column from FV bank item by pointing using the record type bank customer view customer dot fields dot name to point to the right column. If you want to interact with record type, this is the right way. Interacting with like direct variables, it is different. Interacting with record types, it is a little bit different. We have to cast to the right column type, right? So as you can see, except the first row, we are having the values like this as expected. Now, by any chance, if I remove the first grid row layout, I don't remove, I'll just comment. Now you can see this grid is ready. This grid is dynamically backed by an expression rule, which is fetching the data from our data source, that is a database, and which is backed by record query. Now, if there are changes in the database values, it will be directly proportional to this expression rule call, and this will affect your the local variable which is being actually iterated in the grid. Now, this is how we are dynamically populating the data in the editable grid. You can control the fields to which to make editable, which to make read only. On the basis of conditions, you can put certain actions on additional columns, which we will be seeing in the further examples. Till now, yesterday we have seen how we can query the static data. Yesterday we have seen more depth on how the grid editable grid is implemented as a grid layout function. Today we have seen, in spite of static data, how to put data dynamically backed by an expression rule coming from a data source inside this editable grid. So if you really like my session, drop a subscribe, drop a like, comment out if you want to you know get any topic covered in the further sessions. And yeah, it's good to see the implementation. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.